Nancy Pelosi is 82 years old. Mitch McConnell is 80 years old, and Joe Biden is 79 years old. These three people have quite a few things in common. They are perhaps the most powerful officials in America right now, sadly. The three of them have been in politics for over 100 years combined. And lastly, all of them were born during the Second World War. We bring this up not to be ageist, of course, but to illustrate that there are some important lessons from that time period that these leaders may seek to remember. They were alive during the Second World War, after all. No doubt their families suffered, many did. They should consider not making the same catastrophic mistakes that leaders at the time made. And what was the main mistake that was made by leaders during World War II? Weakness. The story is infamous. England's Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, a career politician, is convinced that Hitler can be reasoned with. No one wants a war, after all, he thinks, so he flies to Munich. He meets with Hitler, and he gives Hitler what he wanted, a big chunk of Czechoslovakia, a place where German-speaking people lived, land that was rightfully German, historically German, Hitler said. Land where Germany had deployed troops and began to bomb. Does that sound familiar right now? Anyone? After appeasing Hitler, Chamberlain took his peace agreement and waved it proudly in the streets. Peace in our time, he declared. The ignorant British public cheered. One man was not cheering. His name was Winston Churchill. He was so outspoken against appeasement and Hitler that Neville Chamberlain had him banned from the newspapers and broadcast television, a 1930s deplatforming, if you will. It was only after British troops began to be sent home in body bags by German soldiers that the public sentiment turned to rage. Chamberlain was cast out by his own party, and Churchill was elected prime minister. But by then it was too late. The victory was bittersweet. The bombs were already set to fall on London. When asked at his post-war trial whether German forces could have defeated a united front of allies before Neville Chamberlain's appeasement, the chief of the German army, Alfred Jodl, replied, "Out of the question." But no one stood up to Germany, and we got World War II. World War II killed 80 million human beings. That's 5% of the world's population at the time. This is the cost of weakness. Joe Biden was born during World War II, so you would think that these lessons would sink in. Appeasement and weakness is the fatal flaw that dooms a people. The first thing Joe Biden did upon entering the Oval Office is to sign his own worthless peace agreement, just like Chamberlain, approving a new gas pipeline for Russia into Europe. In the same pen stroke, he killed American energy independence with the Keystone XL pipeline. Over the next year, Biden inflated our currency, opened our borders, and got 13 American soldiers killed in Afghanistan. Weakness, weakness, weakness. Weakness has a cost. Our enemies are watching, and they see this.
Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom. Because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases. Brown says it's time to bury the label Rust Belt. It's time to see the what used to be called the Rust Belt become the home of a significant resurgence of manufacturing.
Famous orator Winston Churchill is spinning in his grave at an RPM unheard of watching that speech. What a disaster. The State of the Union is weak, it's feeble, and it's scared. Joe Biden is our Neville Chamberlain. Same men, different era. Both living in a fantasy mindset marked by immaturity, frivolousness, mental instability, and a feline nature that characterizes the ruling class, always has. Biden, Chamberlain, same men, same result. In times of crisis, all performative, meaningless, feminine, passive-aggressive gestures get set on fire, and all that's left is natural law, the laws of nature. They always reassert themselves. In the end, there is nothing left. There's no such thing as a power vacuum. Somebody takes power, so it better be you. You better be strong. Might does make right. The larger animal gets to eat. They get to expand their territory and influence, to do as they please. These are the laws of nature. And the real consequences of something terrible happening to you if you do not have strength is very bad. These are the driving forces that guide our world, whether you like it or not. A pack of wild animals does not choose the weakest and most diseased member to lead them. 81 million Americans chose Joe Biden, and this is literally defying nature, ladies and gentlemen. In 1940, George Orwell reviewed Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. Orwell ripped away the veneer of pacifist, liberal worldview and mindset to expose something dark and alluring in human nature. His review goes like this. Nearly all Western thought since the last war, certainly all progressive thought, has assumed tacitly that human beings desire nothing beyond ease, security, and the avoidance of pain. In such a view of life, there is no room for patriotism and military virtues. Hitler, because in his own joyless mind, feels it with exceptional strength, knows that human beings don't only want comfort, safety, short working hours, hygiene, birth control, and in general, common sense. They also, at least intermittently, want struggle and self-sacrifice, not to mention drums and flags and loyalty parades. Whereas socialism and even capitalism have said to people, I offer you a good time. Hitler says to them, I offer you struggle and danger and death. And as a result, a whole nation flings itself at his feet, end quote. George Orwell was right. And 5% of the world's population died because of it. Could have been avoided. People need more than weakness and diminished status. Those are the things Joe Biden is offering. This is our Churchillian moment, and we have a Chamberlain at the helm. We better be strong, and we better change course quickly.